Welcome everyone to episode 42 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name's Kevin. I'm here with just Owen this week, and we're going to be talking about the new Ridley Scott film, Napoleon. But we're going to start, of course, with our weekly watches. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. I didn't watch too many movies. I've been kind of busy editing a short film, but I watched Alien Covenant twice. I
I
watched
didn't
Alien
see that you
Covenant.
watched it twice.
I watched it I watched it once, and then the next day I watched it with the audio commentary
Right.
because I have the Blu-ray for it, and um I went downstairs and the it was still like on the TV, like in the menu, and I just like clicked on the button, and I was like, "Oh, there's an audio commentary." So I naturally had to rewatch it with the audio commentary. And it's a pretty cool commentary. I mean, Ridley Scott. We're in our Ridley Scott month right now, I guess.
Yeah.
A lot of Ridley Scotting is happening.
That's
Um,
that's what the people are
yeah,
saying.
they're Scotting around right now. So I was kind of in the mood for that. That's my favorite Ridley Scott movie. So I, dabbled there. I didn't yeah again not didn't watch too many movies. I watched this movie called Pieces from 1982.
Right, which was the
Yeah,
recommendation.
Eli Roth
Yeah.
dropped this movie in the Big Picture podcast, and he talks about it, being young and not caring so much for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre because he just wants to see people get
People
cut up with
die. Yeah.
chainsaws. And that's what you get in Pieces is
A lot of
someone
people
cutting
dying from a
people up
chainsaw.
into pieces. Um,
Do they use a chainsaw as well?
yeah, and it's
Sweet.
really it's I don't know if you'd call it comedy horror, but the way and people die is just really funny. Like people's arms are like very cleanly getting like cut off, and it's like
Yeah.
it's an
Do you think
amusing
it's like
way
a
of.
do you think it's like a just like a thing of the times where like it was just
Yeah,
like
well, it's just like 1982 slasher. It just that's how
sure.
it kind of
Yeah.
the vibe. I think it's a lot of fun. It's not like the best I've ever seen, but it's pretty good watch. I watched uh Thanksgiving a couple more times,
Yeah.
but
Have you
besides
seen it
that,
3 times now?
I think.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and I watched Heaven's Gate, which is the Michael, I think
Right.
Camino film, the big sweeping epic that kind
And it
of
looks really
killed the
good.
movie industry. It is really good. It's probably there's also some probably similarities to Napoleon, but in terms of just
Interesting.
like how vast that movie feels, it's very fascinating where the money can go in 1980 because it's like they built a city and there's just like people living there basically. Like there's
Yeah.
just so many extras, and there's these great scenes where the camera's sweeping and you just have like hundreds of people dancing, and it's just really cool to see, like, because like so many movies nowadays with like hundreds and hundreds of $1 million, and you just don't really see the money on the screen. And
Yeah.
even though the money on the screen here kind of burned the movie industry, you can tell that money was put in here and like for an actual artistic like purpose instead of just like
Right, yeah.
money laundering. So that's all I watched this week.
Nice. Okay. I did a bit. I guess I don't think I mentioned this on last week's episode. I watched both Clue and Dazed and Confused, or rewatched both Clue and Dazed and Confused back to back the other
Yep.
night, like a week ago. Two of my favorite movies. So that was like super fun. And then immediately I just bought the Dazed and Confused Criterion a couple days after, so I might even rewatch that again sometime soon so I could listen to Mr. Linklater talk about it. But yeah, I
That's
mean both
probably
of
a
those movies.
good commentary. I
Yeah, there's some cool.
he's got a It's impossible to read by learning
It's
Possible to
possible to
learn to
plow.
plow by reading
Right,
books
yeah.
is all-time commentary. I think that one's really great. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be interested to actually hear that one
I
too.
think it's cool. There's also, like, some of the stuff that comes with the Criterion is so cool, like, there's, like, a little book that comes with it, and in the
Uh-huh.
book, there's, like, a whole yearbook section where it gives
Oh,
you,
that's
like,
cool.
descriptions of all the characters, like, all their, like, high school yearbook, like, type things.
Mhm.
It's so fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
shout out
that's one
Criterion.
of my favorites. I saw The Marvels finally. It's like, whatever. I honestly, and I don't, like, even care enough at this point to defend any MCU
Yeah,
movie, but, like,
true.
the three leads are like genuinely likable. Like I'm like, if
Oh no,
this
I
came
mean, I like
out
Brie
like
Larson.
yeah, like if this and especially Aman Vellani, who
Yeah,
is just
we
like
gotta get her in a real movie.
dude, that's what I'm saying. I was watching the movie and I was like, listen, she's gonna be stuck making MCU stuff for at least like the next 5 years,
Well, she
probably.
seems to like doing
But
that.
but she is yeah, and she's enjoying it, and she's also like very young, so she has plenty of time to be in other stuff.
Yeah.
But
How old
she
is
is
she?
like so I think she's 20 years old, I think. I don't know. She's quite young.
21, yeah.
21, yeah. Like she is so likable. Like she's just like every time she's on the screen, especially when the three of them are on the screen together, I'm like, if these three were in a good
Yeah.
movie together, like this would be
Yeah, yeah.
so fun. Like their dynamic is great. So I don't know. It's like, yeah, it's still MCU stuff. I'm not like a big fan, but it's better than what
I
you
heard there's,
normally
like,
get, I
no,
think.
like, second act.
It's so
Kinda
yeah,
that's kinda,
it's
like,
not
set up and then the
structurally,
end.
it's yeah,
Yeah.
structurally, it's not that, good. There's some weird things where the villain, like, kind of gets defeated at the end of the second act, so, like, the
Oh, okay.
third act, like, doesn't involve like, the villain is just very weak, but that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Anyway, then I watched, let me make sure I say this right. Symbiocytotoxoplasm Take 1, which I recommended to you, and I do still think you should really watch.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people should really watch it, but it's like 1968 experimental like documentary film that
Mhm.
is kind of like very much towing the line between like what's reality and like what is like filmmaking, or like if the whole thing is staged or if none of it is staged, and like
Yeah.
you like it's like kind of impossible to tell, and it's so brilliant like the way that it's like kind of talking about, I guess, the contrast between real life and film and how those two things are connected. And there's just like this. I mean, I won't spoil this like
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
unseen movie that people should definitely watch. But there's a scene toward the end where they like interview this homeless man who just like goes on this awesome monologue, and like that scene I imagine is not staged, like that's just like a real thing that happened, but one you can't really tell, and
Yeah.
regardless, it fucking rocks. Like that scene is so good. Yeah, the whole movie's worth watching. And it's pretty short. It's like only a little over an hour, so I'd recommend that people like definitely check that one out. It's definitely one of like the better movies about movies.
Shout out
I
movies about
watched
movies.
yeah, real. I watched Saltburn, which I've made several TikToks about and lots of posts on Twitter and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I won't rag on the movie too much, especially because so many people are loving it.
Yeah,
I am
I
not
saw a
one of those
five-star rewatch
people.
this morning. I did see
Yeah,
that.
which is funny because me and shout out
Yeah,
Jesse, by the way.
yeah.
But me and Jesse actually talked about
We
it
talked
last
about it?
night.
Yeah.
We had like a pretty lengthy conversation about it last night, and I mean even other people who I've talked to, like I listen, I
Yeah.
understand why people like the movie. Um, I understand why people like her last movie. There's a lot of things both in that movie and in this movie that I like strongly disagree with, like things that like bother me in like a moral sense,
Yeah.
that makes it really hard for me to enjoy either of those movies. Maybe some people don't pay attention to those things or don't care about those
Yeah,
things,
maybe some
and
people don't have morals.
well, that's not what I mean, but you know what I mean. Like, there's just like I don't know.
Yeah.
I won't get into the specifics, especially because it's such a new movie and we're
Well,
not
her
covering it on the
movies feel
podcast, so I
like,
don't want to spoil it. But
to me, they feel
um,
like, they're, like, bundled as, like, "Hey, look, this is a good movie," and then you open the box and it's like, "Ah,
well, the thing is, and
evilness in it. There's evil stuff."
this is something I saw people point out that I think is like a really good point, is that
Yeah,
it's even more frustrating to watch somebody who actually can make these like very good images, like who actually has
yeah,
like a talent for like the craft, and then is just so bad at delivering messages and gives you something so empty that like the images are kind
mhm,
of rendered meaningless.
yeah. Well,
Like that's a frustrating
I
experience.
saw some review that said that, it's tasteful but artless. You know,
Yeah, sure.
like, there's
Yeah.
like, there's like, it has, like, some it has artistic, like, it has the taste and it knows what
Yeah.
how to
But
present
I mean,
itself, but
even the stuff
it's
that
kind
does
of
look good was
soulless.
like a little
Yeah,
like I mentioned this as well in my conversation with Jesse yesterday, where like some of the stuff, like for example, there's like stuff that just is really nice to look at. It also has like this aspect ratio where you
yeah.
can't see some of those really nice things. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I wish this was just like
It's
why was I
aspect
not
ratio just to,
yeah.
aspect
I know.
ratio.
I saw her talk about it, and I was like, "That's like a fine reason to do the aspect ratio thing." I like it
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
need it.
it's
It doesn't
it's
need it.
it's
Like I'm
not
like it
purposeful.
would have been nicer. Yeah, it would have been nicer to look at otherwise. And there's just like, yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna. You could go if you care. Watch my TikToks. I've made multiple videos
Yeah.
talking about reasons why I don't
Go
like
fight
it.
Kevin in
So
the comments.
yeah, oh god, there's somebody, speaking of which, we're not gonna there's some awful comments, but anyway, I watched, it's a show, but I rewatch Normal People for like the 10th time or whatever. Everybody who knows me knows that I rewatch the show every time I'm like even a little bit sad so that I could just like feel terrible. um just the best thing ever made. I rewatched Dungeons and Dragons on Thanksgiving with my
Real, real, real.
family. My mother seemed to enjoy it, so that's good. My dad fell asleep during it for the most part.
Real.
But it's super fun. One of my favorite movies of the year still. I watched The Bling Ring yesterday, or 2 days ago, I should say.
Bling
Um,
ring.
yeah, it was fun. I was like much too tired to like enjoy it as much as I probably could. But and then yesterday I watched A Fire, a movie that came out earlier this year that people have been comparing a lot to the work of my guy Eric Romer.
Your
And there's
guy.
definitely, yeah, there's definitely some Romer influence there. I think it
Little
also,
Mare in there.
yeah, I think it
If
takes a
they could
little
say
bit of a
that.
different, I think it takes a little bit of a different path though, and I think especially like the way that it treats its characters is not exactly the way that Romero would do it. But it's really interesting. It's a good movie. Like one of the year's best. I think people should watch it. I just made a video about that as well. But um that's all for me. We can jump into some Napoleon talk.
Yeah,
Uh
speaking of this year, probably not this year's best, but this year, we got Napoleon, new
right.
Ridley Scott.
I mean,
Ridley's a
it's a year
hardworking man.
for like it's a year for our like a
Or
lot of real directors to be to
yeah,
be giving us stuff.
some real directors making movies about real people, even.
That's true as well, yeah. Napoleon was a real guy.
Yep.
The
Fun
lengths
fact.
yeah, the lengths to which, he's depicted accurately in this movie, we do not. I even had a friend text me yesterday, and he was like, "I hear Napoleon," or no, he saw Napoleon, and he was like, it was kind of like mocking him a little bit, like, he wasn't really like that, right? And I was like, "No, of course not," but, like, and I said to my friend, I was like, I think that's more fun. Like I'd rather watch Ridley do
Yeah.
what he does with this than have it be like a by the numbers like Napoleon biopic, because like that's not really something I care about. And that's what I said to my friend. I was like you
Yeah.
could read it in a textbook. It's
Ridley
like we
Ridley
know
is
about
using
Napoleon.
historical figures to tell a story that he wants to tell.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not
And
he's not here to tell Napoleon's story necessarily, rather than a
yeah.
story using Napoleon. It's more of
Yeah. I mean,
the way they do it.
to set it up for people, that I think the best way to describe it is that Napoleon's relationship with Josephine is kind of what frames the entirety of the movie. Everything that happens is kind of because of
Yeah,
the combination of them two. Um, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's
which
used throughout the movie. He's writing letters to her throughout the movie. They like when they're not on
which
screen
that is a
together.
real thing that
Yeah, which is
happened.
a real thing, of
That
course,
is
yeah, but the movie is the way that the way that we get through the movie is the progression of their relationship with each other.
which is kind of one of like faults of the movie in a way, is that is like our heart of the story, but we have to cut out a lot of that because the
Yeah,
movie can't be 4 hours long. And the understanding that I have of the 4 hour cut, the infamous 4 hour cut that hopefully we will get, is that there's just more Josephine in it, and
right.
the rest of the scenes probably work better if we get more Josephine earlier. Who knows,
Especially because Vanessa
exactly.
Kirby is fantastic.
Fantastic. She's
Um,
yeah,
you
she's
could only
really good.
imagine how good she is if her character is given the depth that the
Yeah,
4-hour cut
yeah,
probably
yeah.
includes. Yeah, I think that's, if we're gonna start with flaws at least, I think that is one of the flaws, is
Yeah.
that there's some stuff that's like a little bit underdeveloped. Like, and
Yeah,
I've seen some people point to the fact that maybe like this movie, like the 4 hour cut of this movie, doesn't make all that much of a difference. Which maybe that's true because we
sure.
haven't seen it.
Mhm.
But I think there are a few instances in the movie that like it's very obvious we're like skipping around. Like it's very obvious that we're going from one event to the next and like really
Yeah.
cutting by like a significant thing. And one of the things that I thought about was the scene where he gets married to after like his split with Josephine, he gets married to I don't know where
My
she's
Little
from,
Girl.
but yeah, so he gets married to somebody else, and she just like kind of like shows up, and then that's it.
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
we see that like we see her show up, and then like we cut to someone else, and I'm like, oh, that's just like a little thing that happened, but like doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we needed too much of that, but, like, it
Sure.
does kind of feel thrown in there.
Yeah, it feels like we're jumping from even and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I feel like I remember there's a battle sequence that like where we don't really see the battle. um I could be wrong, but I
I'm
feel
not
like there's like
sure.
a scene where something happens and we just kind of like go to like the aftermath rather than like watching it.
Probably, yeah,
Um
probably.
yeah, because there's a couple of battles in the movie. And jumping into the good stuff, I guess the battles
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
rock. Like, I think that is the high point of the movie for me,
Well, yeah, I mean,
probably.
you go into a Ridley Scott movie, especially like an epic, war movie, you're expecting some good battle sequences. Ridley's
Yeah.
never been shy of making some sweeping uh, war epics. Yeah, I think they're all really fun. I know Doug, who's not here with us, really didn't like the Waterloo section, and I was like, he said that to me before I saw the movie, and I thought that scene was I didn't have any problems with it really.
Yeah, did he
And
explain at all
well,
what
he
the
just
fault
said
was?
he said the entire time he was watching the Waterloo section, which was his like least favorite part of the movie for some reason. Um, he was like, I have no idea how they made an entire movie about this because there's a Waterloo movie.
Right, there is a Waterloo, yeah.
But so for some reason I don't know why specifically he didn't like that section, but he was thinking about that movie the entire time.
Right, and
Um,
I mean, it's a very significant battle, so I
yeah, I
can
mean
see why a
it
movie
makes
got
sense.
made
Yeah,
about it. I don't know, especially because, like, one thing that we're pointing to is the fact that for a 2.5 hour movie, it feels like there's stuff left out. So I think it would make sense
yeah.
that some of these very major events could be turned into an entire
Which
movie.
yeah,
Um, I don't
it's an interesting case because it does feel long. It is long, but it feels like and it's like oh it's a very long and it's a winded movie and you feel like you just watched a lot of fucking movie after watching it, but you
yeah,
do want more movie in a way. It's just like it's kind of fascinating how like taking stuff out can almost make it feel, or actually putting stuff in can make it feel you know more complete than
right, because 'cause it'll
removing shit.
flow better, and that, like,
Yeah,
matters as well.
it's
And this I
ultimately
mean,
the. I don't think
it's
it flows horribly. I do
sure.
think it can flow better. Again, I think it's a really good movie. I don't have too many issues with it, but it does have some like things where it's like I think there's a better version of this movie that probably exists just on what we know and just how it operates right now.
Yeah. And jumping back to the battle sequences for a minute there,
Yeah.
um I see a lot of people talk about, especially in his other movies, and again it gets brought up in this movie, like just how Ridley Scott works with scale. And it is
Mhm.
like so impressive to like look at any of these even like I don't know, not even necessarily just the battle sequences, just the way that every set looks, like every location they go to looks,
Beautiful.
and the way that everything feels like as grand as it would in real life, you know? Like I just think to tell a story that is obviously like a part of history that really happened, and then to
Yeah.
like watch, and of course like whether or not this feels true to life is a different conversation because obviously like he's doing things with the story that aren't true to life, but but to like be in these places on screen and have those feel so true to life is like a really impressive thing that I don't think like I don't know how much people could pay attention to something like that in another movie, but
Yeah.
it's I think it's an undervalued thing that he is
Oh,
just
for sure.
doing so well. Like there's just every battle sequence just feels so real to me,
Yeah, I don't.
because of how everybody is organized on the
Oh,
screen and
yeah,
because of like
very. I mean, you have hundreds of extras, and especially there's the. I mean, the Waterloo, I think, section is really well organized. I mean, you have the.
yeah.
I don't know. I think going back to that, I don't know why Doug. I'd be interested to hear, but he's not here. But I think that section is quite fascinating, especially in the way that
Yeah, everybody boo Doug in the comments.
especially the
Everybody was
way
in the
that
comments and booing Doug
all
for
the
not
extras are
being.
organized, because I think that one's even one of the more tactical ones, because you see why he loses there.
Yeah, I think a lot as well of like the like another part where I was like watching the movie and really considering this was when they go to what is it? Is it Moscow in Russia that like they burn completely?
Yeah,
Um
I think so. Yeah,
like I mean it's just like the wet like it looks amazing.
yeah,
Like it just this deserted city and the way that it's like set up to like to make you feel like that is yeah, I don't know. It's just very
I
impressive. I loved everything about all like the big scenes that we get. Like there's
yeah,
a lot of stuff in between that I think doesn't really catch my interest as much, but every
sure.
time we jump to a major battle or like a new
Yeah.
location or like this yeah, like just it's like kind of undeniably great like Ridley Scott stuff. Like
Yeah,
it's just
it's not perfect, but I do think I don't think many. I don't really know if I could name another director that can make this exact movie.
yeah,
It's
that's what I
so
was
Ridley
thinking while
Scott.
watching it.
It's
Yeah.
very impressively Ridley Scott, and for someone who's not a big fan of his other movies, you're probably not gonna get too much out of this. But I think this is another win for the Ridley Scott heads, because it's very
Yeah.
Ridley Scott.
He's a very divisive filmmaker in like the world of like
Yeah, which I don't
film
think I
discourse on the
makes much
internet.
sense. It doesn't make much sense to me. I don't think it feels. I'm not sure. It's a very odd. Like, if you like just kind of took his filmography and didn't know anything about his like what people thought of him, I feel like you would think he was respected much more. Like he's respected, but it's
Sure.
like he made Blade Runner and Alien. Like it's like
Yeah, which like I think a lot of and again,
I mean
it
those
depends what
movies.
section of discourse you're engaging in because I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of people who are like, "Oh, this guy used to be great and hasn't made a movie in 20 years." There's also a
Mhm.
lot of people who just think he hasn't really made that many good movies ever.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's a
I
weird. Yeah. It's that's a point where it's like Alien and Blade Runner came out so long ago, but I think some people even don't like those movies either, which is silly. But I also think like it's like he's just kind of impressive now.
yeah, I mean the guy is 85 years old, right?
85, yeah,
He's made
and
how many movies in the past like couple
he's
years?
85, and he's reinvented the way that filmmaking has been made, so he can make movies faster. I don't know if
Yeah,
you saw the clip I sent it a couple days ago, where he talks about how he's just using more cameras now, so they shoot faster, so he can do a shoot in like whatever X amount of days. So he's pumping out movies just consistently faster,
right.
which is why he's able to do what he's doing. But he's doing this where he's like, hey, why don't we just use more cameras instead of just like, you know, whatever, using less
Right.
cameras and
Like
taking more
just to give people
takes.
some perspective on Ridley Scott in his 80s in the past couple
Yeah, yeah.
of years. He released The Last Duel and House of Gucci in the same year.
2021. Yep.
Yeah. Then we get Napoleon this year
Mhm.
and
Gladiator
Gladiator
2
2
next
is
year.
already close to half
It's
finished and coming out next year.
Yeah, it's
All of which
we're
has happened in
getting
the first half of his 80s.
from when we're recording this about 361 days till Gladiator 2.
Oh, very specific count there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You got a tracker up or like you got a
Well, it's
calendar
a
on?
year from the 22nd.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah, but it's like
we're gonna get a Ridley Scott movie every year till he dies, and then probably a movie the year after he dies.
yeah. I mean,
Like
it's
this, I
crazy.
mean, yeah, I think that's one of the I admire that kind of working ethic from a director. I think um,
I mean, he's
it's
just doing
very
stuff.
yeah,
I don't know. Um, do we want to talk at all about Joaquin Phoenix? Because we mentioned Vanessa Kirby is great in this, which like to me, like kind of, and then this is coming from somebody who really likes Joaquin Phoenix, but like to me, Vanessa Kirby is kind of the best part of every scene she's in.
sure,
For
sure.
the most part, she's fantastic. Joaquin Phoenix is interesting to be playing Napoleon, and I think he
Yeah.
mostly does a good job. I wanted to play I wasn't gonna read the Saltburn comments, but I wanted to bring up the comment that this person posted on my Napoleon video because it's such a silly comment. Someone someone commented on my video, like, thinking that it was, like, kind of like an own, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
I
yeah.
mentioned, like, I was like, "Oh, I don't know, like, I like Joaquin Phoenix sometimes, I don't like him at other times in this movie." And someone comments and they go, "Joaquin Phoenix is an English-speaking American actor. You have to suspend disbelief to appreciate him in this role." I like, did he think I was watching him speak French? Like, what do you mean? Yeah, thanks for letting me know that he's an English-speaking American actor. Like,
Nice.
what an insight. Yeah,
Yeah.
duh. I just think there are some moments that have very strong Joaquin Phoenixisms that that maybe pull me out of the fact that he's playing Napoleon.
Sure.
But there are a lot of moments where I
Yeah.
don't think anybody else would do it as good as he does.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think specifically some of the comedic moments in the movie, I think are like so well suited for Joaquin Phoenix, like the boats line when he's just
Oh,
like
yeah.
when he yells at
Oh,
the
it's
guy and he's like, what does he say? He says something like you oh, I don't know the exact line, but he says he like yells at a
like,
guy about having
it's like
boats.
something about, like, you think you're so I don't know the exact word. It's like, "You think you're so important because you have boats?" It's like it's
Yeah.
something on the lines of that. I think it's yeah,
Only Joaquin Phoenix could
yeah,
make that as funny as it is.
yeah, yeah.
And for a movie
No,
that is
I think
kind of like one of the funnier movies this year, I
for
think it's
this
great
version of
casting.
Napoleon, I think he's good. Eh,
Yeah.
you know,
I agree. I think
if
if
I'm gonna get really, you know, technical about it, you probably want someone younger to play Napoleon,
sure, right, because
uh,
he's playing Napoleon like in
like
his
his whole life.
20s and like early 30s, right?
Yeah, it's interesting to do a Napoleon movie about Napoleon over a span of like a long time and have someone older be someone try like to make them look younger at the beginning and then have them just naturally age instead of having
Yeah.
someone be younger and then like age them up. Um, so I would have, if I were making a Napoleon movie this year, I would have opted for someone younger, but I don't. That doesn't take me out of the movie, or it's something I'm really thinking about during the movie. But it's like if I'm Build a Bear, making the perfect Napoleon movie, you probably
Right.
get someone younger. And I think it actually I think you'd just it would be a different experience with the younger Napoleon because I think when you're looking at Joaquin, I don't think you're thinking like, oh, he's very young during this. Like, it's just because you're looking at Joaquin and that's like a fucking 60-year-old man. It just has a different
Yeah.
because the things that he's doing are like crazy and they're very big and he's in these very hostile situations and he's going through a lot. But if you're looking at Joaquin, you're definitely like, oh, this is an older person, so he should be able to handle these situations. Um, so it's kind of just a different uh, experience there if you have a younger actor. But that's not. It's kind of a nitpick.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. The other thing, I guess, while we're on the subject of Napoleon specifically, is because we've already talked about how he's portrayed in this movie. I tweeted about this as well, which like I don't know if this makes sense, but I texted our friend John, who also makes TikToks, and um
Yep.
and he agreed with me as soon as I said it. So I was like, okay, at least somebody I know has like the same perspective, which is that like I was watching it and I was like, it's a silly, it's a very fun, silly thing
Yeah.
to depict Napoleon as just like kind of just a little guy in this movie. Like he's
Yeah.
kind of just like
What's the thing?
like the like almost crying
Yeah.
emoji thing, like the like that's kind of just
Yeah.
Napoleon for this whole movie. And I'm like, that's such a like funny decision and
Mhm.
like silly way to depict like one of our most historically significant figures and a guy who was like kind of known as this like great winner, like
Mhm.
great like
Yeah, I think it's an interesting juxtaposition when you have someone like Joaquin, who seems to be playing these little guys quite
yeah,
often
like little
recently,
freaks
but
mostly.
he's good at playing these freaks because his face and like his stature and his kind of presence is very like, oh, he has this like kind of he's anti, you wouldn't expect this guy to be a little freak, I guess. He looks like
Yeah.
he's, well suited and he's, got his shit together. So I think it does work as a juxtaposition, but I think if you wanted to like lean harder on him just being like kind of a pathetic little guy, you know, someone younger probably would have pushed that further, perhaps. But I do think it is interesting. I don't know. The casting is kind of funny. There's like the Ridley Scott quote where he's like, "I put the hat on his head and I said that is
Right.
Napoleon." Like he's like,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
it's a very funny way he went about that.
We need to have just like a sit down with Ridley Scott. Like we need to just like pick his brain for an
Yeah.
hour. Yeah, I don't know.
There was
I just think there's
yeah.
some decisions with how Napoleon is portrayed that are very like interesting for this movie. And I think yeah, I don't know. I because going back to what Doug was talking about, Doug points out something in his review, like where he mentions the movie being kind of silly as well, at least in his
Yeah.
letterbox review, where he was like, it's funny to show the movie having like all of like these intense battle sequences, all this like extreme like violence, and then and then at the end just be like Napoleon led so many people to
Yeah,
their
yeah,
death,
yeah.
like some like, and it's just like showing us like figures of like how many I don't know. Yeah, like it's a silly movie, and for lack of a better word, like, and its depiction of Napoleon, and also speaking of silly, just like small detail I needed to point out because I saw so many people talking about this like on the internet, and like because keep in mind this is a movie that just came out over Thanksgiving
Yeah.
break, so like of course people are going to see this with their families. There is just
Oh,
like
yeah.
abrupt cuts to Napoleon and Josephine fucking just out of like
Yeah, I'm
it
seeing it
couldn't
with
be
my family in a
more
couple hours. I'm excited for that.
yeah, it couldn't be more abrupt. And I imagine for the people who went into this not knowing that, it was quite an experience to watch alongside your parents or whoever, which
Oh
like
yeah.
not really something that like yeah, I don't know. Just a thing to point out
Great,
because
great
they
cut.
really yeah, they
Yeah,
really
no,
come out of
he's looking across
nowhere.
the table and
Um
he sees soon to be the Josephine's little scandalous lover. They're talking
right.
and then he's getting he cut to Joaquin's face, he's getting really angry, and then he's
Yeah.
like going hard in the paint. It's like I just it's just I
Yeah,
yeah, no, it's a little
no, it
funny to
worked,
see
but
it.
I think it works. One, I mean, it works because my entire theater was laughing,
Oh
and
yeah. I mean not it's another great comedic
yeah, but
moment
also
there.
it works in terms of how it's characterizing Napoleon as this like like he is just nothing in this movie without Josephine,
Yeah.
and everything kind of like points back to her, um,
Mhm.
even to the point where the missteps that he makes for the all of the mistakes that he makes toward the end of the movie happen after spoiler alert for a real thing Josephine's death. Um,
Yeah. No,
like
he
that
loses
is where yeah,
most,
that is
yeah.
where he really starts to lose it.
Mhm.
And of course, all the way up until he lives his life in exile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's a good decision. really have any other notes, I think, that we didn't cover. Is there anything else that you want to bring up as far as Napoleon stuff goes?
Not particularly, no. I think
Sweet.
I think it's a really solid movie. I don't think it's
Yeah. And another
uh
thing that I should have pointed out at the beginning, but I will point it out now. This movie, in our
yeah.
42nd episode, is the first time in podcast history, despite Doug not being here, the first time in our podcast's history where all three of us rated something the same. It took us 42
Is that the
episodes.
case? Is it
Yeah,
all
I
we all gave
went
it 3.5 or is it
yeah,
it's
I
literally all
went
this
back
it's
yeah, I went back through every, like, episode, every movie
okay.
that we've covered and checked
Yeah,
the ratings. There's probably movies that we've given the same rating to as far as, like, lists that we've done or something, but
sure.
specific episode topics, this is the first time that we've covered a
Yeah,
movie for an episode and we all gave it the same rating.
yeah.
It is kind of like one of the ultimate 3.5 out of
Yeah,
5
I said that I
movies.
recorded a TikTok and I was like, this is the most 3.5 movie ever because it's like really good, but it's not great enough.
Yeah,
Never
like
reaches those highs, but it's like consistently 3.5 through the whole movie,
yeah.
which is quite an interesting
Yeah,
picture.
just something to point out for the diehard fans
Yeah,
to
for all
know.
the
This is
looks like a movie heads out there. There
yeah.
you go.
But yeah, that could wrap up our little Napoleon discussion. We're gonna jump into some news. Obviously, reminder as usual to share some feedback if you like listening to us talk about Napoleon or the news or whatever. You can comment, subscribe, like the video on YouTube. You can rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That goes a long way. And you can also follow us on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
There are links in the episode description for our Twitter to keep up with all things looks like a movie, as well as to join our Discord if you want to do that. But we're going to jump into some news, starting with obviously like the by far biggest piece of news in Hollywood this past week. Is a lot of Scream 7 news. I'm going to try to wrap all of this up into one.
Yep.
I'm going to try to group this all together, but we have a lot of Scream 7 news that starts with Melissa Barrera being fired from the Scream franchise due to her posts denouncing the genocide in Gaza and calling for a ceasefire, several social media posts. She gets fired from Scream 7. Then Spyglass, the company behind Scream, releases a statement that says, we have zero tolerance for anti-Semitism or the incitement of hate in any form, including false references to genocide, ethnic cleansing, Holocaust distortion, or anything that flagrantly crosses the line into hate speech. None of those things, of course, are things that
Yep.
Melissa Barrera did.
Nope.
But Spyglass accuses her of doing those things anyway. So that is an awful statement from them. Then following up that awful statement, we get another awful statement from the soon-to-be
Oh,
director of Scream 7, Christopher Landon,
should not be
who
actually probably
who
not.
tweets broken heart emoji. Everything sucks. Stop yelling. This was not my decision to make.
And
Which
then
like
deleted tweet now.
at the end of the day, the fact that he shows distaste for this decision is a good thing. The fact that he chooses to state it that way,
Yeah.
not so much a good thing. Pretty much an empty statement, pretty much like a both sidesing this thing, kind of like the safest thing I could say about this without losing my job type of thing. So very much not taking a stand for the star of his franchise. And then finally, the last big domino in this piece of news is that the following day, it was announced that Jenna Ortega will not be returning for Scream 7. She's the biggest name in the franchise currently.
No.
So and there's like some reports that it was like a scheduling thing, but like we can assume why she's not
Yeah.
returning, and it
Um,
we can imagine it has to do with the fact that Melissa Barrera was fired. Yet to see if like other cast members will drop out, but this all in all feels like a mess, and I don't think anybody is now excited to support Scream 7 in any way.
yeah. They did mention they don't know how the articles. There were some articles mentioned they're already on duty to rewrite the movie. They want Nev Campbell and Patrick Dempsey back.
Right, which a
Nev
lot of
Campbell
people are pointing, of course, to the fact that
wasn't.
Nev Campbell wasn't paid
Yeah,
enough,
wasn't
which is
in the
why they
last
got
movie
rid of
because she
her.
wasn't paid enough. So it'd be really odd. They'd have to pull out the the money banks to get Nev Campbell, which just feels like, we're jumping through circus hoops here to save the franchise. Who knows what happens? If I
Yeah,
were to
it's
bet, I don't think this movie comes out, or at least it
that's
feels like
probably
I saw someone say that you probably get Spyglass selling the Scream franchise, and then someone picks it up, and then we get like a new Scream movie in like 5 years or something. But
yeah.
it doesn't feel like this iteration of the Scream 7 with Christopher Landon Christmas movie from Spyglass is happening.
Yeah.
I don't know. The outrage has been too.
Yeah, which is
Yeah,
like, I mean, and this is something that I pointed out the other day as well, which is like a majority of the Scream fan base, at least currently for these new Scream 5 and 6 movies, is teenagers and people in their 20s. Not exactly the kind of people
yeah.
who would
Not.
react well
Mm,
to
mm,
firing your star over
no.
something like
No.
that.
No. 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 No.
Um, so just like an like aside from the fact that it's an awful moral decision, it's also an awful business decision. So I just don't know how they thought this was going to be a thing that they do without any backlash. And the backlash has been
Oh yeah.
significant for good reason. And it's nice to see how much people are shitting on Scream 7. Yeah, like you said, it feels like a movie that's not going to come out, and if it does, it feels like a movie that is going to either be like strongly boycotted or something. But
Oh yeah. No.
um,
It will be 100% boycotted. Um,
yeah,
it just feels
it's
like
just
there's no way to go for Spyglass right now but sell the property.
yeah, which is like,
It feels
and
like
of
they
course it's
shot
like
but they didn't need to do this at all because the last two movies were successful. Well, the first thing is like they a while ago they had Radio Silence do the first two, and they got really really greedy, where they were like, we need this next one out ASAP. So sorry Radio Silence, but we need Christopher Landon to come in, do this one quick. We gotta get this one quick out there. And the strike happened, kind of shot that plan in the foot a little.
yeah,
And then they're like, hey, let's fire our star. So it's I don't know. The handling of the franchise has been quite weird, but this is obviously like the biggest kind of shooting in the foot moment, and I just don't think there's a really direction that you can get out of this hole. You just feel like you're too far
right,
down.
yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. The outlook on anything Scream 7 right now is as low as it could ever possibly be. Um, Bit of a transition, just like worth mentioning, I think, with along with all of this news, is that we saw the talent agency UTA drop Susan
Oh
Sarandon as a
yeah.
client for showing support for Palestine, which is being kind of like bunched in with this story as like a larger story of
Mm-hmm.
celebrities who are speaking out publicly, showing support for Palestine,
Mm-hmm.
showing support for the idea of a ceasefire, and then Hollywood kind of
And then
retaliating
Noah
by
Schnapp is
taking
still in
their
Stranger
jobs.
Things.
Right. Which like is a Stranger Things boycott gonna happen? Maybe. I don't know. Like,
I don't
it,
know. Probably
it's
not.
just
Those Most
like,
of those fans
yeah,
are like 12, so it's like they don't really know.
sure,
They
but
don't really have an
it's I don't
idea of
know.
it.
It's yeah, it's very frustrating to see this stuff happen,
Oh yeah,
and
for
how
sure.
Hollywood is treating this stuff. I mean, obviously, and this is kind of goes across the like it's more than just a Hollywood thing, of course. I mean, obviously, like lots of people in any industry have been losing their jobs for showing any
Yeah.
kind of vocal support for Palestine. Yeah, it's just part of a bigger story, of course, and
It's just bizarre. It feels like it's the industry's so fucked because we just
right,
literally got out of the strike, and now we're going straight into like
yeah,
people getting blacklisted for being pro Palestine.
yeah,
It's it's so
yeah.
over.
To not so much of a smooth transition, but just to jump into some other like movie stuff that doesn't involve that. Nosferatu news. We got two
Yeah.
things. First look at Lily Rose Depp, and we also got Robert Eggers saying that Bill Skarsgård totally transformed into Count Orlok for Nosferatu. His quote was that he's just not there, which
Yeah.
kind of rocks.
Exactly.
Like Bill Skarsgård is honestly fantastic all the
Billy
time.
Boy.
Like that
Yeah.
dude rocks. Like he is just like, and this is like, I mean, this is just like a movie made for that guy. Like he's like,
Mhm.
like
Yeah. No,
if
I'm excited. The close look has like he's like out of focus, and you see like an eighth of his head, but you get a good look at Nicholas Holt, who's set to be in his first good movie. So I'm happy for him.
Has Nicholas Holt really never been in a good movie? I don't. He's definitely been in one,
Oh,
right?
he's been in Mad Max. He's been in Mad Max.
Yeah, right. That's true. Have you seen Mad Max? Fury
Yeah,
Road.
yeah.
I mean, yeah. Do you like it?
I think it's it's not my hair thing, but
Oh, he's also in The Favorite. Yeah,
oh, sure.
he's in good movies. Yeah.
Yorgos. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I like
Two
The Favorite a
movies though.
lot. I like The Favorite a lot. I mean, yeah, definitely more bad
Two
movies than
movies,
good
and then you
movies,
have
but
like what is it?
and
Renfield
he's in A
and
Single Man for like a very short period of time.
okay, cool.
Yeah, so he's like
Yeah,
he's been in
he's
some
in good
stuff. He's
movies.
worked with some
It's
directors, but definitely the first good
it's gonna
movie coming off a string of not so good movies. We could say that
yes, and
much.
then he will be in a bad movie and after that, and it just said, yeah, Nicholas Holt, funny guy. I think he looks good in that. He got these sideburns and the old the old outfit.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of got that because The Favorite's kind of a period piece. I think he's got like a period piece vibe to him.
Yeah. I mean, this is the
Um,
excitement for this kind of thing is massive. Like Robert Eggers,
oh yeah,
Nosferatu,
Lee
like
Rose Depp. Yeah.
yeah, we're excited. Speaking of, we have, and I tried to group all of these together because there are so many. We have like a long list of sequel news, so I'm just going to group it all into one thing, and you can tell me what sticks out as the most exciting, I guess. But um, as far as sequel news goes, Creed 4 is in the works. James Cameron says that Avatar 3 is now into a very hectic 2 years of post production. Lupita Nyong'o will be starring in A Quiet Place Day 1 next year. There's also a new Jason Bourne film in the works, apparently, with the director of All Quiet on the Western Front, Edward Berger, and Matt Damon is expected to be approached.
Burger.
And then finally, The Blackening 2, a movie that came out earlier this year, will have a sequel in the works. So out of those five, obviously, like Avatar 3 is the big one, but we've known about Avatar 3 already.
Yeah.
I'm pretty excited about Creed 4.
Sure.
I have not. I've enjoyed all
Jonathan
three of the
Majors coming
movies.
back? Probably not, right?
Yeah, no, definitely
probably
not.
Probably not.
Yeah, I'm
Who would
curious
you
if
want?
Michael B.
Who is
Jordan
your
will
like
be
dream?
directing
Who
again.
he is? I think they mentioned that.
Okay.
Who's your dream villain casting?
Dream villain casting. I'm curious who they would get. You know what I you know what I thought about immediately on the subject of because we just talked about Robert Eggers is like if we got
Robert
like
Eggers
Scott.
is your
No,
dream villain?
no, but because we yeah, Robert Eggers being a boxer. No, because we just talked about him. I think if we got like
Bill?
Skarsgård in his Alexander Skarsgård in his
Alexander
Northman
Skarsgård.
physique to be a boxer with like that physique, that shit would kind of rock. Like that'd be a cool one. I don't know who else.
Stellan Skarsgård.
just like a 70-year-old boxer. How old is he?
Yeah. Michael B. Jordan. It's like a battle of the minds more than the battle of the body.
Right.
It's all tactics. So I think Stellan could do it. I think.
No, yeah. I mean, listen. Creed movies are 3 for 3 right now. So, and Michael B. Jordan clearly has some promise. I think when we talked about Creed 3 earlier this year, we mentioned like we'd like to see him kind of direct something that's not like big budget franchisey kind of stuff. But like
we can do big.
I'm sure Creed 4 is going to be good. Like it's like like it's I don't know. He clearly has talent, so I'm interested. The Quiet Place thing, I've kind of I don't know. I even liked the second Quiet Place mostly because Cillian Murphy's in it, but I don't know that I'm like super. Yeah, I don't like John Krasinski, but I don't know if I'm super excited for it. But like, I'll always get behind something that Lupita Nyong'o's in. She rocks every time, so that's cool. I don't know. Yeah. Jason Bourne stuff, I have no opinion on at all.
Yeah, I haven't seen this.
Next up, we have a original. Nicole Kidman, Antonio Banderas, Sophie Wilde, and Harris Dickinson will star in A24's erotic thriller Baby Girl, directed by the Bodies director Helena Rain. It looks Conceptually interesting. Erotic thriller between Nicole Kidman and Harris Dickinson, kind of an awesome concept. Two people who I like seeing on screen. Yeah, I'm interested. I'm probably more interested in this than some of the sequel stuff, but we'll see what actually comes of it. Um, then in TV news, we have Black Mirror season 7 in the works, which
Oh,
I have already made a video about. Not my expectations at this point quite low, but still a little bit excited. I hope it's better than this season we just got. I don't know if they have the ability to improve upon the season that we just had. I don't really I
it's
think
over.
they would have to I think they would have
The
to
worst
make
season of
some
TV ever incoming.
I just think they would have to make some serious changes to rebound and get to the point that they were in the first 3 seasons, and some of those changes have to include, like, can we get a real good director to make one of these episodes? Like, if they get like a real director, like big director, because they have in the past gotten at least like directors with a reputation to do a couple episodes, um, and those episodes are good. So I think that would be cool, as well as like they never have any trouble pulling in stars. Even this past season had like some pretty big names involved. So that's like not a problem. I just think they have to they have to give us an episode in the new season that is on par with some of the earlier seasons. Otherwise, I've kind of lost out on the show because it's like last season, the highest high of last season does not really compare at all to the first 4 seasons. So
Sure.
if you do two seasons in a row of that, then Black Mirror might be washed. It might be over for the Black Mirror heads, like myself.
Said it all the
Um,
Black Mirror heads.
Real. Next up, Focus Features has acquired distribution rights to the Bike Riders after it was dropped by Disney, and we're getting a 2024 theatrical release. So the Bike Riders will not be coming out this year. It was supposed to come out this month, I think, in November
Really?
originally.
Why did they? Do you know
Um,
why they dropped it? Was there like a?
uh,
Is that a hap? I don't remember. I'm not
I remember seeing that it happened. I don't remember
okay.
why, but I just
Weird.
it's annoying that it happened at all. Thankfully, Focus Features stepped in and picked it up because like
Yeah.
the idea of a project like the Bike Riders, a movie that a lot of people are like excited for, you know what I mean? Like the fact that somebody like Disney could just kind of like drop it and then like nobody ends up seeing it is like a scary thought, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like it's got Austin Butler in it, it's got Tom Hardy in it, it's got Jodie Comer in it.
Yeah.
It's made by a real director. Like the
Sure.
fact that it could just like be cast aside by Disney and then like not get released. Thankfully it will get released, but yeah, now it gets pushed back to 2024. So we'll see it when we see it, I guess. But that's a little piece of
Yeah,
news
and I have a
there.
bit of news for you.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, Emerald Fennell says she would love to make a Jurassic Park film and pitches
Oh,
her own take. Well, first and foremost, it's very erotic. So there's a
okay.
marriage between a man and a velociraptor, and it's basically a domestic drama. What do you think about Emerald Fennell's take on Jurassic Park?
Is this a discussing film? Is this like a joke tweet or
Oh, it's
is this
real.
like a real thing?
It's real. It's an
Oh, it's real.
IndieWire.
I just saw as of 3 minutes ago. Holy
No, it's
shit.
real. It's an
Um,
IndieWire article.
I might need to quote this like live on the episode. Uh, this is like
Wait, where the fuck?
awful.
I lost it. Oh, really? You don't ready for it? You don't want to see it? You won't be there day
I
one?
I'm
You
not
will be
gonna
there day one.
lie.
You would be there day
I'm not
one.
gonna
Don't
lie.
lie. You
This
would be there day
has this
one.
has worst movie of all time potential. Like, first of
Oh,
all, we need to make
that's
sure
getting made.
maybe, probably. Honestly, at this point,
Dude,
in a post Saltburn world, I don't know that there's too many things that Emerald Fennel
dude,
can't
Colin
do.
Trevorrow made a Jurassic World movie. You don't think Emerald could pull some strings?
Well, it's not even just that. Like, I think she has like the ability really to mostly do anything she wants with her next movie.
Yeah,
Like
because
she is going to like because between Promising Young Woman and Saltburn, like, and again, it's not like these movies are making like a massive amount of money, but I do think that
They're
she
big on TikTok.
yeah, like she's gonna have another movie soon, and it's gonna be
Gotta go
whatever
big,
she has.
watch out.
Yeah, like whatever she has
Barbecue
her
at
sights
Emerald's Fennel.
on, whatever she has her sights on, she could probably get it. I really hope that that's not a fucking Jurassic Park movie. That sounds
I
awful.
hope so. That sounds
As somebody who calls the first Jurassic Park one of like my 5 favorite movies ever at the moment,
well, you gotta make some room
I
'cause you got a new
really
favorite coming. You got a
okay,
new
all right.
favorite on its
I would
way.
I would like it if
Jurassic Park domestic drama directed by
yeah, I
Emerald
would like it
Fennell.
if that IP is
Like
not
The Shape of
touched.
Water,
And
but for Jurassic Park heads.
but I think I think this is another specific thing that I want to point out that we talked about when we mentioned 65 recently when we were recapping like our year
Oh, that
lists.
Emerald Fennell
Um,
directed it.
oh god. No,
What
that
a
like
head
the idea of an erotic
fire.
dinosaur movie, it's like it's the same thing with the most recent
That
Jurassic
tickle your
World
feather?
movie. It's like, have people forgotten that dinosaurs are cool? Like, do we need to it's the same thing with the
Do we
last
need to
Jurassic
fuck
World
them,
movie.
Kevin?
Yeah. No, but it's like the last Jurassic World movie, half the movie is about bugs, and now somebody's over here talking about making an erotic dinosaur. Just make a movie about dinosaurs, bro. They're cool. Like, if you just put dinosaurs in the movie and make it good, people are gonna like it. Like it's just a given. I don't know. Anyway, that's a live
We live in
react
a new world.
news that I despise. We have 2 quick pieces of news left. One, Paul Mescal, big fan, of course, says he'd like to maybe do a rom-com with Iowa Debris or something like that. That was the way he
I'd like to
phrased
do
it.
a rom-com with
Um,
Iowa Debris. Do that.
I mean,
Sign me up.
listen, Paul Mescal, Iowa Debris rom-com is like you remember a long time ago on the podcast when we built our own rom-coms?
Yeah,
This is
sure.
kind of like dream casting. Like, this is kind of like
Okay, but you got what
awesome.
do you got? Griffin Gluck as the director?
No, please no. Maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna be honest, if you put Paul Mescal and Iowa Debris in a rom-com directed by Griffin Gluck, I'd be there day one.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'd
I don't
prefer if
think
it's
he
not
can
him, but
direct, so I don't know. It's like
I would love that. Like, I think that would be so
I mean,
fun,
he
and I
was
know they're
cool in
like
Tall Girl, but like I don't know.
okay. I know they're friends in real life.
Yeah.
You gotta stop bringing up Griffin Gluck when you talk about Will Gluck because now I need to make it clear to the listeners that we're talking about Will Gluck and not American Vandal star Griffin Gluck.
I mean, big time adolescence, big fan,
Right,
just
right.
why
Anyway, our
him? Why
last
him
our
with
last
James
piece of
Franco?
our last piece of news I wanted to end on, that's like not really a piece of news at all, but I thought it would be
Yeah,
funny to end on it because we get to celebrate something nice. Robert Pattinson's going to be a dad. Um,
true.
Him and Suki Waterhouse are expecting their first child together.
Taylor Lautner,
Exciting.
Lautner, stay away. You know, like
It's it's
Taylor
just
Lautner,
like
please,
it's
no.
just like funny.
Taylor
I
Lautner,
think something
no.
I think something I was thinking about is just like because I always get these like TikTok slideshows of like all the like funny ass like Robert Pattinson news headlines. You know what I mean? Like just all
Yeah.
like the stuff that Robert Pattinson does. I'm like, can you picture that guy having a kid? Like what is that like what is that
Yeah,
kid gonna be like?
that
It's
kid's gonna be something in 20 years. I'll tell you that.
yeah, maybe one of our great actors. Maybe not, but regardless,
Maybe one of our
fun.
great
Robert
rappers.
Pattinson certainly is one of our great actors. We can agree on
And
that.
yeah, one of our
It's a
great people, man.
well, we don't know all that much, but one of the funniest people we could say for sure. Like
Oh
for sure.
yeah.
I mean, what a guy.
I
Anyway,
mean, you
that
sure?
is that is the piece of news we're gonna
That was
wrap
a piece
on.
of pie, man. Holy.
Next week we're gonna be getting in the Christmas spirit and talking
Oh,
about Black Christmas.
we're gonna be jingling all
Um,
the way.
yeah. So we will see everybody later.